You had to learn to be comfortable with boring. That's not an intellectual lesson. That's a character lesson. And it took you longer than it should have, because your intelligence kept insisting the boring approach could be improved. It can't be improved. It can only be executed. You're 32. The account reads $22,000. Your salary is $71,000. The credit card is cleared. Student loans are down to $34,000. You started a small side project 18 months ago, something you didn't initially call a business, just a skill you possess that others occasionally pay for. It now brings in $900 a month. You don't upgrade anything. You funnel that $900 straight into the account automatically before your lifestyle can absorb it. You've learned this lesson. Lifestyle will always expand to consume whatever you allow it to reach. The solution isn't willpower. The solution is not giving lifestyle the opening. Structure beats willpower every time. Your net worth crosses $40,000. It doesn't register as anything extraordinary. You know people your age earning more. You know people your age who appear to live better. You've been to their apartments. You've seen the furniture, the vacations, the restaurant bills. You've also quietly begun to understand something about appearance versus reality at this level that you didn't grasp at 24. Appearance is available on credit. Reality takes longer and reveals less. The people who look wealthy at 32 and the people who are genuinely building something at 32 are often not the same people. And from the outside, the difference is almost invisible. From the inside, it's everything. The fourth hidden reality: intelligence makes you highly skilled at looking competent, at signaling correctly in the right settings to the right people, at projecting a version of your life that reads as successful to those around you. And that projection carries a cost. Not always dramatic. Sometimes just the cost of the apartment that's slightly nicer than required, the car that's slightly newer than necessary, the wardrobe that's slightly more premium than practical, each individually defensible, each individually reasonable for someone with your income, education, and professional standing. The cumulative toll over a decade is the wealth you didn't build. Smart people are exceptionally good at justifying each individual expense. Smart people are exceptionally bad at grasping the cumulative cost of a decade of justifiable expenses, because each one makes sense, and the sensible ones add up to the same destination as the senseless ones. 0. You're 36. The account holds $87,000. The side income has grown to $2,400 monthly. You made a decision 14 months ago that you wouldn't inflate your lifestyle until the account passed $100,000. The number felt arbitrary when you said it. It turned out to be the most powerful financial commitment you've ever made. Not because $100,000 is magical, but because having a concrete, fixed, non-negotiable target eliminated the endless negotiation your intelligence was constantly conducting with your own spending choices. Smart people negotiate with themselves constantly. Smart people can always construct a reasonable case for the exception. That fixed target ended the negotiation. There was no case to construct. The number was the number. Until it was reached, the answer was no. You can feel the number approaching now. The way you sense a room before you enter it. Somewhere right now, there's a person with an advanced degree sitting at a desk they're exceptionally good at occupying. They can do things that would genuinely impress you. They can build an argument. They can deconstruct a system. They can enter a room of sharp people, command the conversation, and leave having been taken seriously. Their bank balance is $2,300. They've been meaning to start investing for 2 years. They've consumed everything available on the subject. They understand it completely. They could explain it to you right now in vivid, accurate detail. They won't start this month. There will be a reason. There's always a reason. The reasons are always intelligent. That's the problem. The reasons are intelligent enough to be persuasive, intelligent enough to ring true, intelligent enough to justify 1 more month of learning about the thing instead of executing the thing. And next month there will be another reason, equally intelligent, equally persuasive, equally incorrect. This is why smart people stay stuck, not because they lack capacity, not because the information is inaccessible, not because the path is unclear, but because intelligence without direction optimizes for understanding instead of action, because the system rewarded them for knowing things and penalized them for not knowing things. And so they learn deeply and permanently that knowing is the work. It's not the work. You got the grades, not just passing grades, top-tier grades, the ones that made teachers scribble little notes in the margins of your essays, the ones your parents couldn't wait to show off at holiday dinners, the ones that confirmed early and often that you were among the ones who'd make it. You were going to be okay. People told you this so frequently and in so many different ways that you internalized it, like you internalized the language you heard as a child, without choosing to, without questioning it. It became part of the foundation of your identity. Smart equals secure. Smart equals success. Smart equals a future without worry. You're 31 years old. Your bank account says $1,140, and you are undeniably one of the most intelligent people in your circle. This isn't a story about intelligence failing. Intelligence did exactly what it was supposed to do. It carried you through the education system, through the exams, through the interviews, through those rooms where being articulate, informed, and capable of building a logical argument was the admission ticket. Intelligence opened every door it was supposed to open. What nobody mentioned is that the doors intelligence opens don't necessarily lead anywhere near genuine wealth. They lead to degrees. They lead to paychecks. They lead to that quiet, comfortable, slowly constricting trap of being well paid for just showing up, which isn't remotely the same as being wealthy, which was never the same as being wealthy, which will absolutely never be the same as being wealthy. And the sharper your mind, the longer it takes you to realize this. Because clever people are exceptional at justifying their circumstances. Clever people excel at weaving narratives that make staying exactly where they are feel like a conscious, rational choice. That's the first thing intelligence does to you. It makes your own cage feel perfectly reasonable. To grasp how you landed here, you need to rewind 7 years. You graduated with distinction. The degree set you back $67,000 over 4 years. You didn't process that as a real expense at the time, because doing so would have meant confronting what $67,000 actually represented, what it would feel like to carry that weight forward into a life that hadn't yet unfolded. You processed it as an investment. Everyone called it an investment. Your parents called it an investment. The financial aid office called it an investment. The glossy brochures called it an investment. Nobody ever broke down the mechanics of that investment. Nobody sat you down at 17 and walked through the projected returns. Nobody asked what the expected income from your career path would be at year 5, what your monthly payments would look like against that income, what the real impact on your ability to save, grow, and accumulate would be over your first decade of employment. Nobody ran those calculations with you. You were 17. You were bright. You were going to be fine. You're sharp enough to see all of this with perfect clarity. And then you do precisely nothing about it. Not because you're lazy, not because you don't care, but because intelligence, without a particular kind of financial education, produces a very specific paralysis. You understand the problem with enough precision to feel its full weight. You don't understand the mechanics well enough to know what action to take. You know you're in the cage. You just can't spot the exit. This is what nobody tells you about being smart. Smart people are exceptional at absorbing knowledge the system rewards. Grammar, logic, persuasion, programming, chemistry, that specific, testable, verifiable knowledge that opens doors with the gatekeepers. Smart people are not automatically good at absorbing knowledge the system doesn't teach, and the system doesn't teach money. Not really. Not the crucial part. Not the part about assets and compounding and the fundamental difference between building wealth and merely circulating income. Not the part about how the people who actually accumulate wealth are rarely the sharpest minds in the room. They're the people who grasped a handful of unglamorous mechanical truths about money early enough to act on them. Those truths are not complicated. They don't demand exceptional intellect. An average person who understands them and acts on them will outperform a genius who doesn't, every single time, without exception. The research is unmistakable, and intelligent people find this deeply unsettling because it suggests that what they were told was their primary advantage isn't, in this particular arena, the deciding factor, and sharp people don't like being told their primary advantage doesn't matter here. You're 27. You've been with the company for 3 years. You're skilled at the work. More than skilled. You've earned 1 promotion. You received a company-wide shout-out that your manager forwarded with a note reading, "Well earned." Your compensation sits at $64,000. You've accumulated $8,400 in savings. You still owe $51,000 on your student loans. You're carrying $3,200 on a credit card that you've been juggling for 14 months. You read about personal finance online. You've consumed countless articles. You've bookmarked 17 of them. You understand the principles: emergency funds, index funds, compound growth. You can explain compound growth accurately and clearly to someone else. You've actually done this at a dinner party. You have $8,400 in savings. This is the second hidden reality. Comprehending a concept and inhabiting the system that concept describes are entirely different things. Smart people are remarkably good at comprehending concepts. Smart people can read about compound growth, explain it, genuinely grasp its mathematical power, and then close the laptop and proceed to do absolutely nothing. Because the distance between understanding and action isn't an intelligence gap. It's a behavior gap. And intelligence doesn't bridge behavior gaps. Only behavior bridges behavior gaps. Here's what that gap feels like from the inside. You plan to begin investing seriously next month. Next month arrives, and suddenly there's a legitimate reason to delay another month. The reasons are always legitimate. The student loan demands priority first. The emergency fund isn't fully established. The market looks uncertain. You want to research the options more thoroughly before committing. You're clever enough to generate an endless supply of legitimate reasons. That's the trap. Someone of average intelligence who consistently puts $200 a month into an index fund with no optimization strategy will, after 20 years, have substantially more than a highly intelligent person who spent 20 years researching the perfect investment approach and never quite launched because the conditions were never quite ideal. The market doesn't reward sophistication. It rewards participation. It rewards showing up with $200 and walking away. And intelligent people have a very hard time walking away. You're 29. Something shifts. Not dramatically. Not the way movies depict transformation. It shifts the way your vision adjusts to darkness. Slowly, unannounced. You stop reading about money and start actually doing something about money. The distinction sounds minor. It's everything. You open the investment account you've been intending to open for 2 years. You deposit $1,000. You schedule an automatic transfer of $200 per month. You don't spend 3 weeks researching the optimal allocation first. You select a broad index fund in 11 minutes, and you begin. The first month, the balance edges down slightly. You don't touch it. This is harder than it sounds for a sharp person, because a sharp person seeing a number decline generates analysis. The analysis generates options. The options generate justifications for why intervention might be necessary. The sharp person possesses the cognitive tools to build an entirely logical case for doing exactly the wrong thing. You don't touch it, not because you've stopped being sharp, but because you finally grasped something that has nothing to do with intellect. The system doesn't care how well you understand it. The system responds to what you actually do, not what you know, not what you intend, not what you could explain to someone at a dinner party, what you do. The third hidden reality: smart people optimize. That's what intelligence does. It examines a system, spots inefficiencies, designs improvements, refines the approach. This is enormously valuable in almost every area of human endeavor. In the early stages of wealth building, it's poison, because in the early stages, there's nothing to optimize. There's only the unglamorous, intellectually unsatisfying work of starting with a modest amount and adding to it consistently and leaving it completely alone. There's no complexity to engage with. There's no problem to solve. There's only the passage of time and the compounding of small, consistent actions. And smart people are terrible at this. Smart people need the problem to be interesting. Putting $200 a month into an index fund and not touching it is not interesting. It's correct. But it's not interesting. The people who accumulate wealth quietly, the ones you never hear about because they did nothing remarkable, they weren't smarter than you. They were more comfortable with boring. They were more comfortable with the long, unglamorous middle section of the process, where nothing seems to be working and everything demands that you continue anyway.